Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the beginning of my final mission of this short campaign, which is the British El Alamein scenario that I was playing through. I very much regret that I wasn't able to play this mission and publish it in keeping with the 80th anniversary, but of course, the El Alamein campaign wound up quite some days ago, and here I am lagging to catch up. But never mind, our final mission is about to go ahead. Now, just in case there's anyone here who hasn't yet seen the previous missions, just a bit of background. This represents the final cracking of our particular sector against Rommel's original defense line. So it's going to be a night mission. It is a night mission. And the area in front of our brigade is centered around a German strongpoint. And our job is to knock that out. So I'm basing this on the standard assaulting a pillbox scenario from the upfront missions, but I've modified it slightly as I've been modifying all the missions in these in this particular campaign game. So in terms of the victory conditions, we have to knock out that, but we do not need to worry about breaking the German squad in the conventional manner. The only thing that matters for victory in this mission is clearing that pillbox. Now, of course, the same applies to the Germans. They don't have to be afraid of defeat being brought on by the breaking of their squad or 50% casualties. So as long as the pillbox continues to be occupied, they can carry on fighting. So that both makes things easy for me, but also makes it a little bit tougher. And it also gives the Germans a little bit of mobility in that the troops they have out on the wings are at much greater liberty to operate against us, which is a bit of a worry. Now, those of you who've watched a lot of my games will probably be quite familiar with my play style, and I expect you've noticed I tend to group my my men based around their morale rating. So I tend to have a group of hard cases who I know can endure a lot of fire without their morale breaking. My slightly weaker troops on the morale front I tend to clump together as a scouting and or fire base. And I tend to use the morale 3 or 4, usually just morale 3 people as a sort of maneuver and fire group. Now I am sticking to that, but in the previous mission, I'm afraid my squad was hammered. We were part of the daylight offensive against this German position, and although elements of our brigade, in terms of the wider story, ultimately took the German position, I'm afraid my squad did not have a good day. And those of you who've seen my previous video will remember that although we've been reconstituted, we're back up to full strength in terms of our numbers, a lot of my men are much shakier on the morale front than my original squad was. So that's not surprising. Given what everyone has been through, I would be a bit rattled if this was a real life scenario, but we've got no choice but to press ahead. Everyone else has had a turn doing their part, so after a very short rest and reconstitution period, we are back in the front line. Now, I really hope that this is going to be a good win. As I say, it's the last mission of this particular campaign. We are actually behind in campaign victory points because the Germans have played really, really well. So I'm going to embark on this one. If I haven't mentioned it already, this is a nighttime scenario, so the decks are going to be burnt through very, very quickly with all the nighttime observation checks we've been making. And just a final piece of housekeeping before my brave lads go over the top, metaphorically speaking. I'm going to continue my play style of showing you my hand of cards, but the German hand, as per the solitaire rules, will remain hidden until they turn over or play a relevant card. So here we go. We've set up, the Germans begin the scenario with the pillbox. As the attacking player, I get the chance to lay some terrain down, and I think Although it's at fairly long range, I don't have movement cards and there might well be some long range shooting. So I'm just going to be a bit cautious and play that wall or low ridge around my most vulnerable troops by way of morale. The Germans are not going to play any terrain, so that's that. Now for my turn, at this distance, there's not really much point shooting, I don't think, and I don't really have the fire cards for it. Oh yes, one other thing. I have enjoyed sniper support in previous missions. I don't have it on this mission. I did a random draw to see whether our unit sniper was assigned to another part of the line. I'm afraid he has been. So the Germans have a sniper wandering around somewhere we don't. And I don't have any good cards I can really use, which is a bit of a pity. So I am going to regrettably discard that because I've got no good use for it. And I'm also going to discard that ridiculously high fire card that I've got no use for. Not a great start, I must say, but at least there's some useful terrain coming. Now the Germans, first of all, let's see what they've got. Okay, they are going to begin quite aggressively. They're going to push out a scouting group. Now, if you're wondering about the composition of the German squad, it may seem a bit odd that their LMG is not inside the strong point and that their highest morale rated men are. Now, that was partly based on a logic tree that I assembled and then randomly drew for after I'd arranged my force to keep it a bit fair. The thinking behind the German defensive arrangement is because victory hinges on the holding of that position. They have put their bravest men, and not unnaturally their command echelon, so basically the sergeant and the corporal are both in there. And so they've gone down the road of giving it maximum survivability while giving the rest of their squad the freedom to maneuver rather than just sitting around in static defense. Now, whether that will work well for them or not, I do not yet know, but we'll see how they do. And in the meantime, they are just going to see how things play out and react as per the solitaire rules. Now, they're quite keen on wasting time because they're sitting on the defense, so they're going to discard that card. It's a coward card, but discarding it in a desert scenario means it goes out of play, so it's a nice way of wasting a card, and that is not what I want to see happening. So myself, in the meantime, this is still not brilliant. I am, with great reluctance, going to discard those. And I know that takes another card out of play, but I'm a little bit desperate. I need cards that I can use. Aha! Not before Ooh! Oh, brilliant. Somebody up there's listening. This might not turn out so bad after all, my lads. See? Courage. So back to the Germans. Now they have a firepower card which they can just about play. So their Group C is going to attempt to observe my Group C. Now this is a bit of a wasted one because, oh my gosh, they do it. Incredible. They're eagle-eyed. In which case their Group C is going to open fire on my Group C. Curses, they've spotted us already. Bit of machine gun fire erupts. It is night, so that's reduced to 0. But I have no concealment cards, so, and they've got rather a lot of targets, so let's see what happens. Private Tresham's all right. Private Cottrell's all right. Gilfallan's okay. And Corporal Burns, unfortunately, is pinned. Okay, really not a good start. And just to add insult to injury, the Germans are going to discard that wire card. on my group C to pin us in place. Oh dear. Well, that wasn't quite how I planned this mission going. What I'd wanted to do, you'll notice with my very tiny group of 2 men, that's the sergeant and the rather imposing Private Weitzel, my 2 morale 5 men. What I wanted them to do was, covered as best they can by the 2 flanking groups, they were just going to make a dash straight up to the pillbox. And Sergeant Vasey, who is the dubious joy of carrying the demo charge, was going to take it right up to that dratted thing and flush them out with it. But they've spotted us already, which is not a happy thought. So, typically, I have no rally cards. I think, consequences be damned, not the best use of a flanking card, but I'm going to order both my other groups forward. So I think we might have to win this one by speed rather than stealth and subtlety. So let's see how this pans out. Now, unfortunately, I don't have enough firepower at this range for Group C to really do anything useful. So I'm just going to content myself with drawing some fresh cards. Okay, not too bad. Back to the Germans. Let's see what's happening. So that gunfire fades away. Their Group C is going to attempt to spot me again because they're very pleased with the results of that. Not so good this time. And that's all they can do because that other group is just still moving. So, yes, the Germans will content themselves with that for now. Now I'm going to make full use of these lovely terrain cards that I have. So my Group A is going to dive straight into a gully. Does take away their ability to fire, but I'm not proud. Those men are all morale rating 1 and 2. And I just worry that the slightest little thing will send them scarpering. Meanwhile, the good sergeant and Private Weitzel have found themselves a nice little escarpment to burrow down into and take stock of the situation. And lastly, thanks to that card, Corporal Burns remembers he's brave. And because the play of a hero card doesn't count as an action, again, it's a waste of a flank card, but I really want to get rid of that wire. So that unwelcome thing goes away. And I draw quite a few new cards. Hopefully there'll be something good in here. Another sniper I can't use, but at least I suppose that stops the Germans using it. Okay, over to the Germans. They think it's worth trying another spotting attempt. Nope. They still don't see us. They must have just got very lucky spotting us the first time. They're going to leave it at that. So, okay. All quiet out here in the desert. Now we have gained a bit in relative range, but they're effectively out of things for a bit. My Group B, unfortunately, although it contains 2 very brave men, they don't develop enough firepower to really make an impact. And unfortunately, neither do these fellows. So with the greatest regret, I'm going to have to spend another turn discarding. That's an obvious card to discard at this stage in the proceedings, as is the sniper that I can't use. But let's see what I get in exchange. Oh, that's a bit unwelcome. Oh, really? Okay, that's not good at all. Back to the Germans. Again, they're just going to repeat their spotting attempt. Their Group C is trying to see my Group C again. They don't manage it. Okay. So far, so good. Well, that's lucky for me because I'm going to promptly discard the 2 cards that I drew last turn, which I simply cannot use. A possible oasis and another escarpment. Well, it's great that I'm getting all these terrain cards, but I really want some movement cards to go with them. Meanwhile, the Germans are probably wondering where all their promising terrain cards have gone. Their Group C again is going to try and spot me, and they still don't succeed. Now my decisions are getting a bit more difficult now. I will opt for a discard again. Now, is it worth chucking out 2 or should I chuck out 1? I think I'm going to risk chucking out both of these because I seem to have been getting a lot of terrain anyway. No, still not very good. The Germans are going to continue to attempt to spot me. Now, if you're wondering why they're just obstinately trying to spot me, it's because every firing opportunity they get allows them to burn through the deck that little bit faster. They fail again. It's always their Group C to my Group C. If they can do it, that's a whole load of cards that they get to blaze through. And as ever, the time limit on the mission is everything. As part of the larger overall brigade plan, if my force has not got rid of that pillbox or strong point or whatever it is by dawn, then we're all in trouble. So really the clock is ticking and I have to get a move on. Unfortunately, my ability to get a move on is severely limited. I'm going to risk chucking away that fire card and that rally card. Because hopefully at this distance there won't be too much shooting and I know my shakiest group is well under cover. No, still no movement cards. We really need to get going. The Germans will carry on trying to spot my Group C with their Group C. Another close call, but still no dice for them. They've got good cards in hand, but they're all a bit situational, and they are hanging on to them in the event that they trigger something that they need with the spotting. Of course, I'm just wallowing helplessly here. I really like that Strength 7 card, so I'm tempted to keep that one and ditch the Strength 5. That concealment card could be useful, though. Oh, I don't know. I'll get rid of the Firepower 1 and the Rally card and hope I haven't made a terrible mistake. Aha, finally, at long last. In the meantime, their Group C is going to continue obstinately trying to spot my Group C. Not doing a good job of it. That is absolutely fine with me. So I am now going to order Group C to catch up with the others. Does make us a bit more vulnerable to being spotted, but we need to press forwards. And I will leave it at that. Hey, even more terrain. So back to the Germans. The attempts at spotting continue, and they still fail. Luck is with us. So unsurprisingly, I'm going to have my boys hug the ground on an escarpment because that's the best possible defensive terrain at the moment. Still can't do much with my other two groups. I'm just going to draw. I know what I'll be getting rid of next turn. The Germans will continue their spotting attempts, and they see me this time. So events are triggered. They are going to begin shooting. That's brought down to 0 because it's night, -2 for the escarpment. And I don't really want to take any risks, so I'm also going to make it a -3 by throwing a concealed card on it. So Private Tresham is fine. Private Cottrell is fine. Private Gilfallen is all right. And Corporal Burns is not affected this time. That goes out of play. And that will be it for the Germans this turn. So that was interesting. Now I still can't do very much, so I'm not going to get rid of any cards this turn. I'm just going to draw and see what I get. Okay. So for the Germans' turn, their Group A is going to get down into some brush. Sorry, I forgot to place a fired marker on them, but I didn't do any shooting anyway. And in order to execute the next bit of their dastardly plan, the Germans are also going to order their Group C forward to bring them up level with Group A. Now, it's quite clever what they're doing, because even though there's a gap beginning to appear in their line as they pull forward from the pillbox, it does mean that what they're doing, if they do it successfully, is they're creating a bit of a gauntlet, which my poor brave sergeant and poor Private Whitesell are going to have to find their way through if they want to get at that pillbox. So they're being terribly sneaky and quite clever. I just hope that we can do them enough damage to give us a clear run at our target. So over to me, and again, I don't have very brilliant choices. Oh, we can play... My Group C has a chance of playing that rather nice firing card, which I'm going to attempt to do if I can spot German Group C. Wish me luck. And we do it! Excellent. Well, having shot at that group twice, I think it's about time we return the favour to Group C. So taking advantage of the British marksmanship ability, we're actually 1 firepower point short of 7, but the special British rules allow me to play it. Going to light up the knight. That's halved to 2 for knight, but +1 because the Germans are moving, so it's up to 3. Unluckily for me, they do have a concealed card to bring it back down to 2. But let's see what the result is. Private Schussel is fine. Private Schumacher is pinned. That's handy. And Private Street is fine. Okay, could have been better. And I will leave it at that for this turn. That's not so good. So over to the Germans. German Group A is going to attempt to dig in, which they don't succeed in doing. Group B is still quiescent. They're kind of cowering in the strong... Well, no, cowering's not the right word for it. They're actually a bit more... they're a bit steadier than that. They're just waiting for their opportunity with that discipline we've all come to expect. And Group C is going to fling itself into an escarpment. Oh, and the Germans are going to discard that card because of it's of no real use to them. So back to me. That wasn't a bad evening's shootings, boys. I would have preferred it if you'd killed or driven away a few people, but it's early days yet. Now I'm back in the situation where I can't do very much of anything, so with regret, I'm just going to spend my turn discarding those 2 cards and hoping something better comes my way. Well, not really. What about the Germans? Now, although their squad is not vulnerable to breaking in the conventional sense in this scenario. They don't really want to run the risk of anything going hideously wrong with their LMG. Any of you who've seen one of the previous missions will remember that they had a bit of a nightmare moment when the thing suffered a malfunction and broke completely. And although they won that scenario, it was a scary moment for them. So this is a bit of a waste of a rally all card, but it's worth it just to get Schumacher back in action. And also, given how quiet things have been, their other group is starting to feel a little bit emboldened. If they get a chance, we may see some movement on that flank fairly soon, and that's something I'd rather not see happen. Because I'm afraid to say that I continue to just discard helplessly, waiting for better cards to come along. Ah, really? No, I want cards I can use. Well, actually, to be perfectly fair, that is a card I could use, but you know what I mean. I have an objective I need to get to, preferably tonight. Okay. Just to tighten the pressure on me a bit, German Group A is going to start moving again. And German Group C, let's have a look at the situation. Yes, they need to find themselves a better position too, so they're going to take a chance and break cover. Dash forward again. And that is all they're going to do this turn. Question is, can I capitalize on this? Well, not really. Though, mind you, both my Group B and Group C could potentially shoot at them. Might be worth my Group B trying to see if he can whittle down their Group A, if only to deprive them of some firepower. I think I will. Let's see how the observations go. Group B will try and spot Group A, while Group C will try and spot Group C. So Group B first, and they succeed. Do you know what? I'm going to let Group B take the shot. So they're going to use that card, reduce to 1 for knight, and then 0 for the brush, but back up to 1 because the Germans are moving. And do the Germans have any concealed cards? Yes, they do. Drat. Final firepower rating is 0. So Private Schultz is fine. So is the chap next to him, Private Beck. Private Wallach is fine. So is Private Wolf. He's the only Morale 4 man in the group. I shunted him over there because there's only ever room for 3 men in the pillbox. Otherwise, he'd normally be part of the exclusive German high morale club. But nope, so although we've opened fire and earned ourselves a fired last turn marker, we haven't really achieved anything with that one. That is a pity. But Group C will try and spot their Group C anyway. And they do so, in which case we're going to do some shooting of our own. So reduce to 1 for knight, to -1 for the escarpment, but back up to 0 because they're moving. They have no concealment cards anymore, so Private Schussel is fine. Schumacher, oh dear, not only is Schumacher fine, one of my brave lads has managed to break their weapon. I wonder who that was. Oh no, it's the Bren gun. Excuse me while I go away and get depressed and find a malfunction counter for my Bren gun. Now, if anyone's wondering about the fact that it was a red 5 on the random number check, of course, with the desert rules, weapons do break more easily, or I should say malfunction more easily than they normally would because of the desert conditions. Here we go. One jammed machine gun. And I can take one final shot at Private Streak at a -1. And he's fine too. So after all that, that actually did no one any favours. Well, I suppose the Germans are quite grateful that they weren't hit, but I am not very happy with that round of shooting, understandably. Let's see. Oh, really? Okay. I can tell you what I'll be doing next turn. So the more vulnerable German group, now that it's their turn again, is going to get back into cover. Every group that has moved has been shot at, so as far as possible, they're going to do the sensible thing. And they're also going to discard a wire card on my group with the greatest amount of firepower, because it makes sense to do that. As for me, oh dear, this is terrible. Well, at least we can get rid of our fired counters, but really. And of course we have a broken Bren gun as well. What to do? Do I attempt to fix the Bren gun, or do I discard cards I can't use? I think I'm going to have to discard, because even at close range we're going to struggle to use those. So I'll take a risk and discard them. But I'm very conscious that my Group C is in a very bad place at the moment. And it's not really getting that much better, unfortunately for me. So talk about not wanting to give me any kind of breather. German Group A has a notion of what it wants to do, but that involves them dashing forward again. So they're really pressing me. And their Group C is going to duck into some cover. And I am not liking this in the slightest. Okay, what can we do? I have a firepower of 8. They're still unable to shoot because they're still in the gully. They don't generate enough firepower to do anything useful. And I've not got brilliant cards. Okay, I'm going to take another risk and do some discards. I hope this doesn't prove my undoing. I can't use that for anything other than cover, and with a Rally 5 card, I think the Rally 1's not that helpful. So I'm going to get rid of those two and hope. Ah, that's better. So Group A is still sprinting somewhere. Group C is in a position, almost in a position to do me some damage. They're not quite there yet, but they want to be well on their way. So encountering no return fire from me, they're going to confidently nip forward again. And if what they're doing seems risky, trust me, from the cards I can see that are face up on their pile, they've actually got quite a lot of insurance going. They'll be all right. Right. So the relative range has crept up to 4. Okay. I think, despite our many disadvantages, it's time to think about shooting. Group B is going to attempt to spot their Group A. And they fail miserably. Oh dear. Is it even worth me trying to spot them with Group C? Yes, it is, actually, despite all the bad stuff we have going on here with jammed weapons and wire cards. We do spot them. I'm going to indulge in some shooting. So we get our fired card. Hopefully this will be worth it. We can play that card despite the broken Bren. So it's reduced to 2 because it's night, further reduced to 1 because of wire, reduced to 0 by the brush, but back up to 1 because they're moving. Unluckily for me, they're in a position to make it -1 with a concealment card, so let's see how we do. Oh no, really? Oh dear. It's Private Cottrell's rifle has become choked with sand now. This is not going well. So we're down to -2 now. Schumacher's all right. And Streak is all right. Our shooting has been terrible. And our weapon serviceability is just, ugh. Don't think I've ever seen it this bad before. So that is going to be it for my turn. I'm going to draw a card. Oh, that's so helpful. Not really. What about the Germans? Well, luckily for me, their nefarious plans are still coming to fruition, so nothing bad is going to happen to me this turn, and they'll just top up their cards, but that's not a good sign. Okay. This is really bad. It might be worth me trying to risk another shot. So Group B is going to try and spot Group A. And Group C will once more try and spot their Group C. So Group B does it. And they're going to follow that up with some gunfire. So firepower of 3, reduced to 1 for night, to 0 for the cover, but back up to 1 because they're moving. And just to annoy me, they're going to reduce it to 0. So Private Schultz, you're fine. Private Beck, you are pinned. Okay, that's some good news. Private Wallach is fine, and Private Wolf, unfortunately for me, is fine. Again, he's the tough nut in that otherwise rather shaky group. And because I said they were going to... Oh yeah, that can go away now. Because I said they were going to try it, Group C can try spotting their Group C. They succeed. Now they are unable to shoot because I'm afraid I played the good card, good firing card on my Group B. But because they still have an action, I'm going to have these gentlemen try and repair their weapons. So Private Cottrell sorts his rifle out with no problems. Private Gilfallin, likewise. Well done, boys. Well done. At least we've got some decent firepower back now. And I'll draw a card. Could be useful, I suppose. Now back to the Germans. Again, their plan is still unfolding and they're not going to take any chances. So they're just going to play that rally card to get Private Beck sorted out. Otherwise, they will continue their steady advance. It's not looking good, really. We're the ones who are supposed to be attacking, but they're proving much more fleet of foot than we are. Now, I do not have good options at all. But my strong, well-armed group is now at relative range 4, which means we generate a firepower of 13. Now, annoyingly, even with the special British rule for firepower, we can't quite play that card, but it does mean I'm loath to chuck that card away. I think because I haven't seen a movement card for a while, I'm going to risk losing the escarpment and that smaller rally card from my hand. So I'll discard those two. Oh, okay, for what that's worth. Okay, still no movement on our part. What about the Germans? Again, they are going to stay quite low this time, only they are going to discard. They're going to discard a weak firepower card because they've got something better. As for me, I really need to get rid of that wire card. Yes, this is not good. It might be worth me trying to take a shot at them. So Group B is going to try and spot Group A. And we do it, no problems. And we're going to subject them to some terribly weak and desultory fire. 0 for night. The movement and cover modifiers cancel each other out. But they knock me down to -1 with a concealed card. So Private Schultz, your number is not up. Private Beck's all right. Private Wallach is pinned. Okay. I will quite happily take that result. And Private Wolf is not bothered. That's it. Let's see what card I get. Oh, really? More terrain? Okay. The Germans are not going to do anything. They're going to draw. It's back. Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting this. I should have marked the unit that fired with one of those markers. Yep, I'm going to discard this terrain because no movement cards. It's just clogging my hand up. Oh, great. More rally cards. Oh, really? I've got rally cards falling out of my ears. Okay, still nothing from the Germans except they are going to discard that card. They're perfectly safe, of course, because I'm just going to helplessly discard those two. And I'm praying I'm going to get something I can use, but no, the gods of war just keep chucking rallying cards at me. Still nothing from the Germans, but now their sniper is going to make his presence felt. And he is going to target my Group B. So he is aiming at the good sergeant. Of course, he's spotted the man with the satchel that looks suspiciously like a demo charge. And he has pinned Sergeant Vasey. How about that? All of a sudden, I'm not that ungrateful for those rally cards. Now the question is, this turn, do I attempt to kill their sniper, or shall I sort Sergeant Vasey out? I think the rational thing to do is to sort Sergeant Vasey out, because really, while he's pinned, that's bad news for me anyway. I really do like having a full hand of cards, thank you very much. And also the thought of him being driven away when he's the only man carrying the demo charge is a terrifying one. So he has rallied. Oh dear, I can see which way this one's going. Miraculously, from my perspective, actually no, the Germans are just going to discard that card. It gives you an indication of what a wealth of firing cards they have in hand. They're just waiting for a good opportunity to use them on me. Again, I am just going to giggle hysterically and discard rally cards. Oh, finally! Finally! That was a very long wait. And luckily for me, just as the going looks like it's getting good, the slightly shakier German unit has finally found a wadi that they can throw themselves into. So they've slightly disappeared off the radar there. And I expect there'll be shooting coming from that quarter fairly soon. For my part, I'm just going to remove that wire card, which has definitely overstayed its welcome. I really need to try and get my boys going forward rather than just shooting from static positions. Okay, so this group of Germans here at relative range 4 to pretty much all my groups. They're going to attempt to spot my group B, and they do it. So there is going to be some shooting. Now it's not too bad, reduced to 1 for night and to -1 for my lovely escarpment. Just to be really safe, I know those guys have morale 5, but I don't care. I'm going to make it -3, just to be really, really sure. Which actually makes it an impossible shot, so they won't do anything there. But I'll still do the draw just to mark the passage of time. So there we go, that's what happened. And that will be it for the Germans this turn. Now, as for me, what am I going to do by way of retaliation? Don't have enough firepower in that group. And I don't have enough firepower in that group either. This is maddening. But any moment now we could get closer, so I'm not going to risk chucking any of those away, and also I want to slow down a bit at the rate at which we're drawing cards, so I'm just going to draw. Back to the Germans. Okay, now luckily for me, the fact that Wallach is pinned is doing rather hideous things to their ability to move at the moment, which is grand. The Germans are not going to do anything, but they're going to taunt me by discarding a movement card just because they can. I'm coming to the painful conclusion that I'd better discard again. So with the deepest reluctance, there goes that very high firing card. Oh, it may turn out to have been the right decision. Or not. And luckily for me, time's running out again already. So the Germans are going to rally Private Wallach. And sit there looking smug. And I still can do very little. I think, for all their fragility, there's a good amount of firepower in that group. I am going to start them forward. I'm also a bit sick of this lot pushing forward like they own the place. So because they're fairly safe in the gully, I hope, I'm going to send them forwards just to up the ante by getting them to relative range 5. And it brings them back in the game once they get out of the gully. I'm just going to draw a card. Okay. So, the Germans in their little wadi are going to see if they can spot my group A. And they do. Okay. I think there's going to be shooting now, lads. And sure enough, they play that card. So reduced to 2 for knight, reduced to 0 for the cover of the gully, but 1 because I'm moving. However, I have a concealment card to make it 0. Steady, boys. Private Cleary is fine. Private Bell is... oh dear, Private Bell's just been pinned. Private Moon is fine, and one of the Germans has broken his rifle. So not that it matters because they've all got rifles, but Private Beck is having sand problems. And lastly, Private McNamara is fine. Okay, that could have gone a lot worse. And that will be it for the Germans' turn. So we're nearly at the end of the first deck, but I think that's a good place to call it for now. So there's been quite a bit happening. Unfortunately, while I've been advancing really gingerly, as you can see, my relative range rates are depressingly low and we're a third of the way through the game. The Germans have been absolute war gods as usual. They've just torn forwards, they've set up really good flanking groups, and they've created this horrendous corridor of enfilade fire that my 2 heroes are going to have to sneak down or dash down like lunatics so that they can try and blow up the strong point. So it's turning into a very interesting game. I'm having some hairy moments now that the range is getting so close, but we will see. It could go either way. As I say, even if I break the German squad in terms of numbers killed or incapacitated or driven away, the scenario's not going to end until that section falls, which means we're going to have to try and stay intact as long as we can in order to do it, because of course the break rules do apply to me. If I lose half my men, my squad is once more driven off and forced to retreat. But it's certainly off to an interesting start, so we'll see how it develops. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for tuning in and joining me on this one. I hope you found this video enjoyable and interesting, and I hope you'll follow me through to the end of this narrative, whatever happens in the ensuing turns, and maybe the next 1 or 2 videos will decide the game. But as always, to my regulars, a huge hello. It's really good to see you guys, and thank you so much for your company. It's always great to have you along. As ever, if anyone's here for the first time, if this is the first of my videos you've ever seen, a warm welcome to you. If you're here for Upfront, please have a look at some of my other videos, and if you're interested in wargaming in general, you're more than welcome to check out the other videos I've put up on this site. So please do feel free to have an explore. I really hope I'll see you all again on the next video. And thank you as always for the pleasure of your company. Any comments, always welcome. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, do take care. Bye.